When I was in elementary school, my gym teacher was a guy named Mr. Stratton. Mr. Stratton was an alpha. He wore tight pants, bright Izod polo shirts, and white sneakers. He kept his thinning hair long. His Jersey accent was thick. When Mr. Stratton blew his whistle, everyone was supposed to come running straight to him, no matter where he was on the field, like right away. He always noticed the kids who hesitated or didn't run fast enough. Mr. Stratton seemed to really enjoy administering the president's physical fitness test every year. Mr. Stratton had little empathy for the kids who were overweight and struggled. He seemed to try to buddy up to the jocks. He even got a little flirtatious with the girls sometimes, especially Linda Kramer, who wore frilly dresses every single day. Mr. Stratton was one of those teachers who needed fealty. As long as you obeyed eagerly and weren't completely uncoordinated, you were all good. Otherwise, he took it upon himself to break you. This was either by isolation or humiliation or both. Mr. Stratton particularly loved dodgeball, so we played it pretty much every time it rained. I don't know how it's played now, but in the late 70s, it was pretty gnarly. If you got hit, it was gonna sting. Mr. Stratton loved me because I was cute, well-behaved, and a ringer at dodgeball. I couldn't throw for shit, but I could catch a ball like nobody's business. It was all in the timing. One time in 5th grade, I caught the ball thrown by the biggest 6th grade boy, and everyone went crazy. It was a highlight of my time at Hopewell Elementary. Well, Mr. Stratton also happened to be a real asshole towards kids he didn't like. And once he didn't like you, you were screwed because he carried a grudge. Mr. Stratton didn't like the boys who had behavioral issues. One of them happened to be in my 6th grade class. His name was Chris, and he always needed a haircut and a shower. He was awkward, but also angry. He was a kid who you'd expect to lose a fight, but not before he did something really scrappy to hurt the other kid. I don't even remember what Chris did to piss off Mr. Stratton in the first place. I never saw him do anything that would have warranted Mr. Stratton to single him out, but Mr. Stratton was ruthless. Every day we'd be sitting in our assigned spots on the gym floor, and Mr. Stratton would call the roll, and then he'd tell Chris to go sit against the wall. Chris was short, but he had a gait like a lumbering giant. He would smile to make it look like he didn't give a shit, but you always knew a kid like that would have liked positive attention if he knew how to get it and had people kind enough in his life to give it. Chris had clearly already given up on himself. He just wanted to look like he didn't give a fuck. And every day he'd sit against the wall while we played whatever sport we were playing that day. Well, I secretly kind of hated Mr. Stratton because he represented all of the douchebag types who would have been mean to my brother. He would have dialed up the differences between my brother and everyone else. He'd have confirmed my black brother would never fit in the white world. Well, one day when Mr. Stratton told Chris to sit against the wall, I was feeling feisty. I raised my hand and I asked Mr. Stratton why Chris had to sit against the wall. Mr. Stratton was kind of startled, and he didn't get it right away that I was challenging him, probably because I was cute and well-behaved and good at dodgeball. Chris had started to get up, but he sat back down and waited. Mr. Stratton told me not to worry about it. It was none of my business. I persisted. I said it just didn't seem fair, and I really wanted to understand why Chris never got to participate. Well, that was enough to let the class know it was on. This was a mutiny, and someone was going down. I was composed because I knew how to play this game. I knew how to deal with racists and assholes and still look like a good girl. I didn't raise my voice or laugh or try to sound snotty. I also didn't look away, even though my heart was racing. Mr. Stratton told me more firmly it was none of my business and it wasn't my place to get involved. He again ordered Chris to get against the wall. Chris did as he was told, but I wasn't done. I said, why can't you just tell me what he did wrong? Or something to that effect. Game fucking on, Mr. Stratton. Lil Dana was not backing down. Well, Stratton was a ginger, and he had a tendency to turn red, and he sure did, really fast, bright red. And everyone was kind of hyper and giggling because I was way across the line. Mr. Stratton's Jersey accent got thicker when he was mad. He told everyone enough, and told me if I didn't like it, I could go sit against the wall with Chris. Oh, Stratton, you fucking idiot. Yeah, he obviously hadn't thought that one through. Well, as you might expect, I hopped up and I said, okay, and walked straight over to the wall and sat down next to Chris. Well, that's when things went slow-mo. And there was a pause that lasted forever. Nobody said a word. And then hallelujah, my best friend Susan Williams got up and walked over and sat right down next to me. And then came Margie Worthington and Ben Cecil. And before long, the whole class was sitting against the wall. It was fucking fire. Well, Mr. Stratton was out of options, and he wasn't too bright, so he of course dug himself even deeper and played his only hand left. He told all of us to sit back down in our spots or go to the office. You know, the office. That's like a fate worse than death in elementary school, especially for a good girl like me who only went to the office when I was delivering the attendance or being helpful in some other way. But come on, by then this was the easiest choice imaginable. I was no dummy. I knew if a whole class showed up at the office, the teacher would look like the schmuck, not the class. So I hopped up and everyone else hopped up and we all filed out the door. Mr. Stratton realized he was fucked and tried to call us back, but a good group kept going and completed the mission. We told the office lady what was happening. I don't remember what happened next, but ultimately we ended up back in our spots on the gym floor having a very grown-up conversation with the principal while Mr. Stratton turned every shade of red. It was particularly humiliating for him because our principal was a woman. That's really the only reason we got to have that conversation. The male principal who had just retired would never have had the balls to let us be heard. We asked questions, voiced our concerns. I think we all said pretty much the same thing, but no doubt each of us felt like we were making a unique point. When the bell rang to change classes, we weren't finished. The rule was everyone got a turn to say what they wanted. Huge shout out to that principal. Well, this was unprecedented. The loudspeaker lady had to announce that classes should stay where they were until further notice. We had disrupted the natural order of 6th grade. We might as well have staged a coup. I wish I could say there was a big dramatic outcome. Eventually, everyone got a chance to speak, and the principal told us she would think very hard about what we had talked about, and she was proud of us for caring about our classmate. And that was pretty much it. Chris and I went from never having spoken to each other to saying hi every once in a while. He got to participate in gym, and Mr. Stratton stayed out of my way. What stayed with me when I got older was how little I cared whether Mr. Stratton ever got the message. I knew douchebags like that wouldn't change. He'd just make his bullshit less obvious. What I was really proud of, even though I never got confirmation, was the possibility that Chris would have seen that someone was paying attention, that other people clocked the injustice he had to deal with. I don't have any illusions that Chris was an angel, but like my brother, Chris was an easy target for schneedles like Mr. Stratton. People so small they have to make vulnerable people smaller. Stratton was Schlumper, and Hannity, and McConnell, and Getz, and Boebert, and Comer, and Jordan, and Mace, and Musk, and Carlson, and Miller, and Bannon, and Giuliani, and Johnson, and Green, and every MAGA douchebag out there. Since the 70s, they're all the same. Yawn. If you had told me in the 6th grade men like Stratton would be exactly the same 40-plus years later, I might have lost all hope in trying to fight back. It's better I didn't know. Standing up to Mr. Stratton wasn't my last time at the rodeo. The thing is, there's an ever-widening population of Chris's in all genders. The Strattons of the world are othering more and more of them every day. So we have to be the unified disruptors. We have to be the coup kids. We have to ask questions and stick until we get heard. We have to show the Strattons how small they are. And we also have to show the Chris's that we're paying attention and we care enough to stand up and sit beside them. Well, Mr. Strattons of the world, have the day you deserve. Yeah.